What happens when the sun, which is your ego, your identity, your sense of self, lands in the 12th house, where everything basically goes to dissolve? Keep watching to find out. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Venusianscorp, Astrology and Tarot, where I talk about all things astrology and tarot. So today I wanted to talk about the sun in the 12th house. What happens when your sun is placed in the 12th house of the zodiac wheel? So you might be familiar, but I thought I'll just talk about this a little bit. The houses in the zodiac basically represent the zodiac wheel, and the zodiac wheel is divided into 12 different houses. Each house represents a particular area in your life. And so when you have when you have the sun there in the 12th house, the 12th house is basically called the house of losses. It's called the house of undoing. It's also called the house of unconsciousness, things that you're not aware of. It all lurks in the 12th house. The 12th house rules monasteries, it rules mental institutions, it rules prisons. Basically, it rules any place that requires a lot of isolation and seclusion. So it is quite a lonely place to be in, the 12th house. And the sun, so what is the sun? The sun is your ego. It's your sense of self, like I was talking about earlier. It's your sense of identity. And when you have the sun, a luminary like the sun, which is supposed to radiate all its energy around, and you place it in the 12th house where everything goes to basically die, because that's what the 12th house is about, you can often struggle to sort of find yourself or know who you are as a person, because it is so very difficult to figure that out in the 12th house. The reason being, the sun is meant to shine, like just as a luminary itself. The sun is meant to shine, it's meant to radiate, and being in the 12th house is very similar to having the sun being placed behind the clouds, so its radiance is dimmed down. It really cannot shine there. Or rather, when we talk about the individual who has the sun in the 12th house, it's very difficult for them to figure out their purpose in life, what it is they want to do in life. Who are they essentially? The bigger questions of life, like what is their purpose? Why are they here? What are they meant to do in this life? Because if Mars is the planet of your drive and ambition, the sun is basically what fuels Mars to achieve that. So it's a very core part of an individual's personality. Now, unlike the moon, which would mostly be seen by people who are very, very close to you, like your close friends, your family members, the sun's energy is pretty much perceived by people you interact with on a day-to-day basis. So this would include your co-workers, for example, if you're in a job, business partners, your clients, basically anybody that you interact with on a daily basis. That's your sun energy. And pretty much everybody that you deal with on a daily basis is going to feel this energy. And having it in the 12th house can mean that when you were growing up, perhaps, you did face a lot of confusion in life. And a lot of it does tend to settle down by the time the person reaches adulthood, because these energies tend to just play out mostly when you're a child, but sometimes it can prolong into adulthood as well. But what happens is the individual can go through a lot of confusion in life in terms of what they want to do, or who they're supposed to be, or what kind of person they're supposed to be, what they're supposed to achieve in their life, because they are also very impressionable in their nature. And I'll talk about this in a bit, because they are impressionable because the 12th house is the house of Pisces. Like Pisces rules the 12th house. And it's a very Neptunian house. If you talk about the energy of Neptune, it's all about dissolution. It's all about dissolving. It's very ambiguous. It's very abstract. It's also the house of delusions and illusions as well. It's something that you can't grasp. It's very foggy. It's very misty. There is nothing concrete about the 12th house. And the other thing about the 12th house is there is no boundary there. It is the final house before it comes back into the first house. So it is sort of like jumping off the cliff and then being reborn again. And then the first house is about the self. So the 12th house is basically where everything goes to die. And so you cannot have an ego there. You really cannot have an ego there. It is the house of being completely boundaryless. And that can be a strength because there is great strength in not having an ego, in being very humanitarian towards other people. But when we talk about the sun, it can be a bit of a dangerous thing when we have the sun in the 12th house here. And I'll explain why. Because when we talk about the sun, we're talking about the ego, right? We're talking about the sense of self and identity. And in order to have a sense of self, a sense of identity, you do need a very clear demarcation between yourself and other people around you. Now, in the 12th house, achieving that is a very, very difficult task because there are no boundaries. Excuse me. There is no demarcation. It's all oneness. Like you may feel so at one with the rest of the world that sometimes you may not know where you begin and where other people end, and so on and so forth. So it can be a very confusing placement, and a lot of the times the sun and 12th house people can face a lot of criticism and a lot of harshness about their choices in life, about the person that they choose to become, because we are talking about the Pisces Virgo axis here, the 12th house, 6th house axis here. And so when we talk about the Virgo Pisces axis, there are themes of Virgo which has to do with your everyday life, or 6th house themes, your everyday life, being very in touch with reality to the point where every task becomes a ritual, that's very 6th house. So when we talk about the 12th house, that's pretty much the opposite. It's about being in fantasy land. It's about being so rich in imagination that you get most of your ideas from there and not really from the real world here. So when you're growing up, you may have these fantasies in your head about who you would like to become or the kind of person that you want to become. And other people around you may criticize you for these choices. Virgo is known for being a very critical sign. Not only do they criticize other people, they also criticize their own selves. But these are themes that can play out because as an individual, you are a reflection of society and society is a reflection of you. And so when you try to become the person that you want to become, you may often face a lot of flack from people around you. You may face a lot of discouragement, criticism, people nitpicking. So for example, you may decide one day, you want to become XYZ, or you want to become similar to XYZ, or have those qualities, or become such a person. And the people around you may start criticizing you for that very thing. They may say, but why this? Why not that? And, how are you going to achieve this? And there's just a lot of backlash that you may receive, especially while growing up. As you grow older, this may sort of cement. You may become more sure of yourself and your choices in life. But in general, you may face this kind of criticism as you're growing up, especially in formative years. Now, that being said, I don't like to be one of those people who talks about these things, about a placement, and then just leaves things hanging in the air. I do like to talk about what you can do about it and what are the strengths and lessons in this. So when it comes to the 12th house, a lot of people like to paint it as a very doom and gloom house. It is called the house of losses. But I personally believe that it is also the house of the greatest gains, because once you find yourself through such a very challenging aspect, that is the sun in the 12th house, it's very much like a phoenix rising moment, although not like 8th house themes, but this is very 12th house themes. It's like trying to make sense out of a fog, or trying to make sense out of everything that's misty around you. There is no concrete thing in the 12th house, like I said before. So it is a very, very uphill task for sun and 12th house people to really figure out themselves and what they want to do with their lives. But once you do it, it is such a turning point in your life that there really is no going back. That being said, some people may not figure it out. right? Like not everybody is going to figure it out within a certain time frame. Some people may have this carry on through their lives, like this whole theme. And I want to say this, that there is nothing wrong in that. For example, you may, because I said earlier, like you may face so much of criticism growing up, that coupled with the yearning to be several things all at once, because you can be many people at all at once. Like I said before, the 12th house, there are no boundaries, there is no restriction, so you can become other people. And that is a scary thought to have, but it's very possible for you people, because sun in the 12th house, you can become another person. It's not even about empathy. Like you can literally put yourself in another person's shoes and start thinking like them, becoming them. So almost like a chameleon. And that is a gift. That is a very rare gift. It can be very useful for things like work that requires a great deal of empathy, for example, humanitarian work. And, at the end of the day, maybe you're not meant to be put in a box. Like if you haven't figured it out yet, and if you're still wondering what to do with your life or things of that nature, it's okay to do several things at once. Because the thing with Sun and 12th house people is that sometimes they may tend to overcompensate because they face so much criticism while growing up, and just people around them being quite nitpicky about the things that they do in general, that they may tend to take on a lot of things almost sort of to prove a point, not just to themselves but to people around them. So in the real world, this could look something like this. Like you could have a main job, like a corporate 9 to 5 job, and then you may have several jobs on the side that really tap into your skill sets. That could be one way it could play out. Or you could just have several talents and skills, and you could dabble in all of them all at once. It can play out in many different ways, but the point is that you may multitask a lot when it comes to these things, and that's fine. That's totally fine. Maybe you are not, like I said, maybe you're not meant to be put in a box. Maybe you're not meant to be labeled. Maybe you are the chameleon of the zodiac, and there is a lot of strength in that. It's not always that we have to be a certain way, that we have to always do things a particular way. There are many ways to live life. And so there is freedom in your way of living, which has got actually very little to do with reality, because reality is the 3D, right? And it all starts from the 5D realm. So you are already operating in the 5D realm. And so you are actually a step ahead of a lot of other people who are too grounded almost. So I feel like there's nothing wrong with this placement. You're absolutely perfect in every way you are. The only thing I would say is maybe just try to ground yourself a little bit more on a day-to-day basis, because like I said, there can be a lot of tendency to escape into fantasy land and sort of not knowing who you are. So just grounding yourself on a daily basis, that could be anything. That could just be even working with the soil, like gardening. That could be doing anything that just makes you feel more centered and more at peace with yourself. Doing activities like that is just going to help you achieve a healthier balance. But I would never ever ask you to change who you are, because there is a reason you were born with this birth placement in your birth chart, and you are meant to make this work for you in the best way possible. That's what I do on my channel. I don't encourage people to fight their chart. I want people to work with their chart and make the best out of it, because everything is a gift. So it's all about what you do with these gifts, right? So that's what I have for you, Sun in 12th house. If you have this placement, do comment down below. Let me know if you resonated with it. If you like this video, do give it a thumbs up, because your likes really help my videos stay relevant in the YouTube algorithm, and it also helps me, drive more content for you, for my subscribers. And also, if you'd like to book a reading with me, you can drop me a message on Facebook or email. The links are down below in the description box, and I'll get back to you soon. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.